back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. So recently I did a video on the top 5 movie adaptations that I wouldn't recommend, that I felt did not really capture the movie's or the book's original essence, or they just didn't portray it very well. And if you'd like to see that, I'll go ahead and link that video up here. But today, I would like to talk about 5 movie adaptations that I would recommend and that I think is really great, that if you either like the book or maybe even if you don't like the book, but the movies are good enough that I think you should go ahead and check them out. So, if you have your own suggestions of which movie adaptations to go ahead and check out, please let me know. I would love to hear your recommendations on which movie adaptations are good and which ones I should see. If you like this list, I would love it if you gave me a like, and if you are not subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button. That would be really great to have you part of the Fantasy Fiction Fanatics community. Alright, let's go ahead and jump right into our list. Number 1 on this list is probably not going to be too much of a surprise, but it is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. These 3 sets of movies are absolutely amazing. I know that probably many fantasy lovers have already seen it, but it's one of my favorite adaptations and was a must to be at the top of this list. It is excellent in quality, excellent for the actors, the realism of it, there we go. The storytelling of the original story is really, really great. Of course, they had to make changes like all movies do, but they kept it to the actual essence of the story and the characters. In my opinion, the movies are actually better than the books, which is like unheard of for me. I'm usually very much a books are always better kind of person, but these movies are better than the books in my opinion, just because the books are too slow for me. They just keep dragging on and on and on. So I really, really love this movie adaptation. I think it is really, really great and cuts out all the extra fluff that comes from the books and just gets to the meat and the heart and soul of the story and the characters. So it's fair if you think that the books are better. That is always acceptable and makes perfect sense to me. But for me personally, I do think the movies are better. And either way, whether you like the books or have never read the books, this one is definitely a set of movies to check out if you haven't already. Second is the Harry Potter series. So numbers 1 through 3 are pretty much pristine in terms of like adaptation. Like it's super, super crisp, follows the story really, really well from the book. Of course, some things had to be left out, again, as all movies do. But the quality is amazing. The essence of the story is pretty much completely clear and copied from the books. Movies 4 through 7 are still good. I don't think that they capture it quite as well considering they're longer books that they're based off of, and so don't have as much time to like get into the actual each and every detail of the books like they do in numbers 1 through 3. But I do think that they are still good adaptations with good quality, good acting, and good keeping to the essence. So even if they're not perfect, I do think that the whole series in general is really great to check out. I think that this is like, if you want to revisit the story of the books but you don't have time to reread them, reading or watching the movies is actually just a really great way to just be refreshed on the story and to feel like you're revisiting the world of Harry Potter. And I think they do a great job. So overall, good job. Maybe not perfect, but of course no adaptation is going to be perfect. So I think these are really great to check out if you haven't checked them out already. Number 3 is the Chronicles of Narnia. And of course, not all the books were adapted into movies. I think it's only 3 of them if I remember correctly. But I think overall, these ones are just a really fun watch. I think that they capture the story pretty well. They've got good actors, good actresses, good quality. I wouldn't say it's quite as realistic as like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but they do still have good realism to them, a good high quality sense of the fantasy elements, which is always nice. So overall, I think that these ones are really good for comparing against the books, that keeps the characters, good representation, and I think that even if you haven't read the books, maybe you don't know exactly what the story is, these books are still good to watch and to get a sense of the story and the characters and to be enjoyable. In fact, I actually read the Narnia books after I watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that was what inspired me to read them. So, of course, the books are excellent, and I do think that these movies are also good, whether you've read the books or not. So, definitely check these out if you would like to find something that's fun, has that little bit more of that serious good versus evil sense to it, but in general is a fun adventure, and some really good fantasy elements in it too. Number 4 is The Princess Bride. I might have a slight bias for this movie and the fact that I've watched the movie several times before I ever read the book, and at first didn't even know it was based off of a book. But that being said, the book and the movie are similar and yet not. The book is actually like has the story of the Princess Bride movie in it, but that's not really like the main portion of the story in the book. It's very, very goofy and silly and has like a weird narration going on in it. And so in this case, this is another one where I think I have a bias towards the movie, like I said, because I think I've watched it several times before I read the books, and the books just don't quite give me the same essence as the movie does. But I do think the book is still worth trying, especially if you like this movie. It's not very similar in my opinion at all, and it's a lot of just goofiness, but it is a fun read, so definitely check it out if you haven't already. But the movie is like just a lighthearted, fun story for fantasy wise. It's got good quality, it's got good pacing of the story. I think this one is really has a good flow as a movie. It's really, really fun, just a classic fantasy story, and I think it is definitely worth watching just for something that is a nice quality, fun fantasy movie, whether you've read the books or not. Let me know if you have read the book and have compared the book and the movie and what your thoughts are, because I do feel like the book is very, very interesting compared to this movie. When I started reading the book, it was not at all what I expected. But of course it is nice to kind of have that separation as well, so it doesn't have to be quite so much as a hard comparison between book and movie, which can then make them both, you know, be good in their own sense. And I do like it sometimes when you have a book that's enough different that you can appreciate both versions of it. And number 5 is going to be Warm Bodies, which is a zombie movie, which I do feel like kind of skirts the edge of fantasy and skirts the edge of like apocalypse stories and things like that, but I do think that it is still fitting for this video because it is a good book adaptation. I would say this is also a movie that's like close to the book but not totally close to the book. They do have some pretty significant differences. But that's okay because they both are good for their own sense and they both have that same essence to them, which makes both of them good. It still, you know, has like the general basis of the book. It just changes some of the more details and some of a couple of like the bigger outlying things that aren't necessarily needed in the story, if that makes sense. If not, let me know and I'll try and explain better. But anyway, it is really nice, fun watch to just enjoy this movie. It is a romance, and that is technically what it is structured around, is that romance and that kind of Juliet, Romeo, cross love. So I do just really appreciate that. And if you like a good love story, this is one that's really fun to watch. Really just a feel-good movie. It does have good quality in the actors, and I would say that that's, you know, really what is needed, is to have good quality actors and graphics and things like that where it's needed, as well as to keep that essence of that book. Even if it's not totally 100% perfect, it still shows off the good parts of the book that we want as readers to be kept and to be shown to everybody else who watches the movie. Okay, so those are my 5 movie adaptations that I think that you really should see. Some of them, I don't even think you need to read the book in order to enjoy the movie. Actually, I feel like all of them in general, you could watch the movies without having read the book and still enjoy overall. Though I do think if you read the books, you appreciate the story more, because the story does usually have those more in-depth details and those more richer moments with the characters and stuff, which is always what makes a book so great, because it can get into those little details and those really descriptive moments. But then again, movies also have their good qualities too. So let me know again what your favorite movie adaptations are. Let me know if you like any of these movie adaptations, or your thoughts, or maybe you're a different opinion. Maybe you don't think it's as good as an adaptation as I do. I would just love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this topic. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!